on WKRX 96.7 FM. My name is Rob Hall. We welcome you into the program. We are sponsored today and brought to you by T.G. Brooks Company, Sandling Golf Cars, and Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. Our guest on the program today, and more or less our brains of the show for today, if you would please make welcome Mr. Paul Westfall, the Director of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service for both Granville and Person counties. Good morning, Paul.
Well, good morning, Rob. How are you today?
Doing well.
I don't know if I've ever been called the brains before, but since y'all are the ones that know how all this stuff operates, I mean, that's where all the technical expertise is.
That's kind of where our brains ends about the working, but you know, the things that yourself and the other agents deal with the Cooperative Extension Service, you all have a lot of years of schooling, and you always continue learning throughout your time with the Cooperative Extension Service. Paul, for maybe some people that are listening in and saying, well, where's Carl Cantalupe? We'd like to pass along, as we talked about it several weeks, Carl is actually retired and moved to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I was going to say we could almost play a Where's Carl game instead of Where's Waldo. We could say Where's Carl?
Yeah.
But we kind of know where Carl is. I guess we won't go down that road.
Well, we want to wish Carl the best in his retirement. We certainly do. But we are still calling the program the Gardener's Corner, and we may change the name on that. We're not real sure yet, but something different that we are going to be doing on the program, we're going to be featuring different agents from the Cooperative Extension Service coming in each week, talking on their area of expertise. And Paul, if you would, could you kind of give us an overview of what the Cooperative Extension Service is all about and what all you all cover in Person in Granville County?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Extension Service, of course, we're over 100 years old. We're set up to extend, if you will, the knowledge that's generated at places like North Carolina State University, University of Arkansas, you know, all these land-grant colleges. And if you want a long dissertation on those, we'd probably have to do it off the air of what a land-grant college is. But no, they're colleges for the people that do research in agriculture. They do a lot of research in other places nowadays, but family and consumer sciences is another area. And of course, we also operate the 4-H youth development program in just about all the counties in the country. But what the Extension Service does is takes that research knowledge, deciphers it from all the research language that's printed in peer-reviewed publications, and gets that out into the communities. So that's why we're in each of the counties in North Carolina and on the eastern band of Cherokee Nation. We have an office there with them, so we're all across the state with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. Recently, we've gone through a transition, and everybody has to reorganize, restructure, do all those kind of fun things now and then. So most of the agents that work in Granville and Person counties are now working in both counties. Like we have some agents that are housed or based here in Person County that will go to Granville County a couple times a week. And likewise, those of us that are in Granville County come to Person County. So we've made a two-county team based out of it. But we're keeping a 4-H agent in each county because of the nature of that work. As far as what you can expect from us on this program, I think where we're getting to is that you know, we're going to rotate among our agent staff and maybe some other of our staff members to come on and talk from time to time. Like today I'm the county director for both counties. Just so you know, my training is in livestock production.
Right.
So I'll be talking more on livestock and forages most of the time. If we have an issue coming up, like last year we had the avian influenza thing that was big.
Right.
So I'll be
sure
talking
was.
about that. Thankfully, this year we don't have any of that in the country, in the United States. So it's kind of gone down on the radar a little bit. We don't have to be as excited about it as we were. But things like that we'll be talking about. And I think later in the program today, we'll be talking about some summer grasses that cattle and goats and horses and sheep and all might like to graze on. We'll talk about those, and we'll get into that in a little bit. We'll also be bringing Gary Cross on. Gary's been on the program before with Carl and you, Rob. Yeah. He's our crops agent. He deals with commodity crop production, tobacco, soybeans, corn, wheat, other small grains, grain sorghum. If it's a commodity crop, Gary's the man to call about it. And he's got a lot of demonstrations out. He'll talk about some of the things he's finding. He's got insect traps out. People talk about trapping. You don't think about trapping insects,
That's right.
you? But
yes,
we'd
exactly
like
right.
to monitor insect populations because that influences some of our management recommendations for these crops. As far as trying to control pests and trying to do it at the right time and the right way, so we minimize environmental impacts from all that. And then we have also Jennifer Grable. Jennifer's our family consumer sciences agent. She'll be on here actually on the 5th of August is her first time, and she deals with human nutrition. She does pressure cooker testing, lid testing, to make sure that the pressure gauge is reading right, which is very critical when you talk about canning food.
It is that.
If you can food, you don't want to open it up and find it's been spoiled later on, or find out the hard way it's been, something's happened to it while it was in storage. So that's a pretty critical piece of equipment to make sure it works right. So she does that kind of work. She teaches some cooking classes. She does wellness programs, works a lot with health department, senior services to offer some of those. So she's got a lot to offer on the program here, I too believe. In fact, you had mentioned that she's got a cooking class coming up earlier that week that she's going to be on.
I think it's the first week in August where she's going to be teaching people about some cooking ideas and canning ideas. And I think we're very fortunate to have the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service here in North Carolina because you all are there to help. You are not there to harm anyone. You all are there to where if people need assistance in finding that information, you may not be able to answer the question yourself, but you have the resources that you can go to and help answer whatever questions that person may have.
We got all the resources of North Carolina State University, and then all the land grant resource system across the country. Some things come in as a new problem to us that may have been dealt with somewhere else, and we can get help from them on trying to answer the problems here. Right. Moving on, we also have Kim Woods, trying to talk her into doing this.
Yeah, I think Kim
we're working on her.
would enjoy it, yes.
She'd do a great job. She's a livestock person also. She knows a lot more about horses than I do, and she knows a lot more that she has worked with dairy a lot too, so dairy cattle and dairy farms. So I know we only have one dairy farm left in Person County, but it's always of interest where the milk comes from.
It is that. And
we want people to know it doesn't come from the grocery store. It has to come from somewhere else before it gets to the grocery store. So, those kind of things, some of the things we want to talk about, want to feature, and talk about how safe our food supply is and what we do to help ensure that it's safe. We want to talk about local foods. And the one thing I do want to mention also, Rob, is that you mentioned Carl. He was a horticulture man through and through.
Right.
We will be recruiting to fill that position. We hope to get that posting up next week.
Okay.
So if there's some folks that are interested in being an extension horticulturalist covering 2 counties, give me a call after the show, and then we can kind of get you in the groove on how to do that.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful thing. Paul, just what I was going to say a little while ago. When people talk about agriculture, I don't think people sometimes take time to think about the impact that agricultural has on our society. And last week when we had Commissioner Troxler here, he gave us a few numbers, and one of the things he mentioned was the average age of farmers now are 58 years old.
Yes, sir.
And he said that the average farmer has to feed 155 people. And it's a lot of farmers out there that doesn't raise any food products, but keep this in mind. If it's a farmer that's raising wheat, corn, or soybeans, they're helping feed this nation.
They're helping feed this nation and many other countries around the world.
And export is I think about maybe $5 billion a year for North Carolina, if I remember what Mr. Troxler had said. And so agriculture is something that should never be taken for granted or taken lightly. And, with people being able to go out here and farm and raise livestock and make their living that way, don't look at it as they're taking the easy road for a living, because they're not.
They're not taking an easy road at all. It's agriculture, no matter what type you get into, it's hard labor. It can be backbreaking, and depending on the level you get in at, most people can't afford to just jump in and buy a 1,000-acre farm. It takes a lot of capital to do that. But we are seeing some more younger people coming into agriculture in a different way, and they're looking at growing some small acreages of high-value crops, which was where Carl was really good to come in at. But you can afford a few acres most of the time, and a lot of people will get started, they'll work off the farm and then come home and do the farming.
Right.
Well, that's extra hours. It's not easy, is it? And we learn things along the way. And I've always said, and a lot of people, other people have said it too, but if a farmer doesn't have to go to Atlantic City or to Las Vegas to gamble. They're gambling every day right there on the farm, because you can't control the weather. You can't control we do the best we can to manage weeds and insects, but there's a lot of other things that influences all those things, and they affect your crop and affect your bottom line. They affect your livestock.
You got equipment breakdowns, replacing equipment, but you touched on the weather, and the weather, I think, is the biggest partner in just about anything that someone associated with agriculture has to deal with. Sometimes the weather may play in your favor, sometimes
it doesn't.
Not so much so.
Right. I think we complain about the weather because it's never perfect, and it's either too hot, too dry, too wet, too humid, too something. But this year I think we've had it's hot right now, but we've had some showers all along, so I think our crops are doing pretty good because of that. On the downside, it's been very humid, and when you get wet, humid weather, that's a good time for diseases to develop in crops. So, we're always facing something, a different challenge, when you're dealing with agriculture. And you mentioned economic impact of agriculture in Person County. That's over $40 million a year.
In Person County.
In Person County.
Well, now, again, I'm going off memory, and sometimes it's not the best. But going back to Mr. Troxler being here last week, it seems to me that he said that it's 390 farms in Person County. And he went on to say that North Carolina wide, it used to be somewhere close to 100,000 farmers, but I think it's back down now to around 2,000 farmers. But all of these farmers are still tending about the same amount of acreage that has been throughout the years. So what that means is these little small farmers are having to grow and get larger to meet the demands, and also to make the amount of money that they need to survive.
Well, that's a big part of it. We have lost farmland, to development, to whatever, 'cause
Commercial growth.
commercial growth. I mean, good cropland is also good land to grow, put a building on, because
Right.
it doesn't shift around near as much, and you can get into all those qualities. I'm sure engineers can tell us about why certain soils are better than others for different things. We just know that good cropland is good land, for most anything. But you talk about the changes and the fewer numbers and larger farms. Yes, a lot of farms have gotten. I made a joke a few years ago in a different part of the country, but somebody was asking about the average size farm. I said, well, you can't find that in my county. And they looked at me funny. I said, well, we have farmers are making choices, I think, and we have some farmers that choose to keep their farm operable just using the family without having to deal with hired labor or anything like that. We have other farmers that want to take advantage of economies of scale, and if you're an economist, you understand all this kind of stuff probably better than I do, but to take advantage of volume discounts. I'll go back to the dairy industry. You've heard of these large mega dairy farms with 1,000 cows milking and all that. Those farmers chose to do that because they can get better price breaks when they're ordering in their animal feed. They're ordering in volumes, and you know what it is about volume buying, you get a little lower price.
That's right.
Some of those guys make more money on the phone buying stuff and saving money than they do out working. The other thing is that when they're also shipping out in volume, they can command a better price and get better transportation fee rates and things like that. So there's some economies, economic influencers on both directions. But to find that average size farm, it's hard to do in a lot of areas.
Well, Paul, you made mention that it's one dairy farmer here in Person County, and that is Mick Clayton.
Yes, sir.
How many dairy farms is it in Granville County?
There's 4 in Granville County.
It's 4.
Yeah.
And that is Sears and William
Sears
Day.
William Day, yep. Charles Curran
Okay.
has a dairy farm, and actually he's got 2 dairy farms. We just count that as one.
Okay.
And then there's another dairy farm in the northern end of the county whose his name escapes me right now.
Well,
But
but
Philip Barker, that's it. Yeah.
well, I know here in Person County and in Granville County as well, it used to be a lot of dairy farmers, but the dairy business, over the years, I think has became a business where when you consider your time and the effort that you have to put into it, a dairy business is 7 days a week, 24 hours a day in a lot of cases, 365 days a year. And,
right.
there's a lot of dairymen out there that, choose to milk the cows twice a day. Some milk them 3 times a day. And I've been told that if you milk 3 times a day, that, kind of increases your milk production maybe 15 to 20%. But, you just don't get to say, well, I think I'm going to milk the cows today. You have to do it on a schedule.
The cows love a schedule.
And it does not matter what the weather is. It doesn't matter whose birthday it is or what the holiday is. They have to continue on. And these farmers and all of their farm hands, people, I think, sometimes look down on farmers. Farmers should not be looked down on because they're doing a hard work. When they get off of work on Friday afternoon, they say, I'm free until Monday. If they're free until Monday, they've got people working in their place looking after things while they may be doing other things. So
a lot of times especially during the crop season, they're not taking that weekend off either.
that's exactly right. They're there on the farm working and taking care of business. And you know, I know a lot of people that over the years has farmed, and you know, it's pretty amazing. You know, Carl had said one time that sometimes your best produce growers and people in ag business that are getting started, that were maybe not raised in it, or people that has been involved in the business world. And you know, farming is a business. It's all dollar and cents.
That's right, and that's a change in perception. You know, used to be agriculture or living on the farm was like an idyllic setting, and everything just went along and rolled along, and all was good. But it's a business. You're right. There's costs to operating a farm, and you need to make some kind of income to be able to pay for those costs. And by the way, the farmer wants to have a little comfortable living also.
Right.
So yeah, it is a business. And when we talk to the people about wanting to start up a farm or a new farm, that's one of the things we strongly encourage is, okay, this is a business, so you're going to need a business plan. You know, think about what you want to do with that farm. And part of that counseling that we do is, you know, we'll steer them to the right direction where they can get that business plan done. And the community college small business centers are a great resource for that. But we also talk about, okay, what kind of product do you want to market? You know, you can grow, say, strawberries. You know, Carl loves strawberries.
Yes.
Love to work with folks growing them. You can grow all the strawberries in the world, but if you can't sell them somewhere,
what you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? I heard about a man in another county that learned to grow eggplant, and he brought a truckload of eggplant to the farmer's market, and lo and behold, he took his truck home that night. He didn't sell anything. He hadn't thought about his marketing yet. So
yeah.
That's a marketing plan is a very important part of the overall business plan.
Growing it is just part of it, but getting rid of it is the other. So
and getting rid of it for profit.
That's right. Let's go ahead and get a word on for one of our sponsors. We'll take a trip out to Timberlake, and we'll stop in at T.G. Brooks Company. They've been in business since 1936. And speaking of canning, if you're in need of canning supplies, whether it's the pressure cooker to do your canning in, or if you're needing jars, you better believe T.G. Brooks Company has them in stock. So head on out to T.G. Brooks and see them, and we'll be back right after this message, spending more time with Paul Westfall of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service.
The month of July, and two things are important to a lot of us here in Person County. Number one is getting those delicious vegetables and pickles put up for the winter, whether you grew them or bought them at one of the two farmers markets. T.G. Brooks Company has all your canning jars in half pints, quarts, half gallons. And they have pressure cookers, bath canners, strainers, funnels. In fact, all of your canning supplies they offer at T.G. Brooks. They offer the stone jars for pickling too. The second item is to keep everything green, and T.G. Brooks Company can handle all kinds of watering needs. First of all, they have sprinklers, water hose sprayers, and water hose parts. They have irrigating equipment. T.G. Brooks Company also has your piping for irrigating. They have gas-powered pumps. A reminder, T.G. Brooks Company has Bartlett Animal Feeds, and they have dog fences and dog food by the bag. Also, it's time to beautify your property while you're out of doors. They offer so many kinds of mulch in bulk form or bagged. You can get your mulch by the large scoop. They have delivery services available too. Bring your truck, trailer, and they'll load it up for you. When it comes to yard tools to do the work, they have all your hose and diggers and choppers and everything you need to beautify. And be sure to enjoy the day with your family by ending the day with a delicious hand-cut rib-eye steak, sold and cut to your width, and cook it up on the grill. And then don't forget the ice cream freezers for some homemade ice cream. They have them. T.G. Brooks Company has been serving the farmer, the homeowner, and landscaper in our area since 1936.
Here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program. We appreciate the support of T.G. Brooks Company.
Absolutely.
In just a few minutes, we'll be telling you about Sandling Golf Cars and Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. Paul, a few weeks ago, you came out and talked with us on the show for just a few minutes, and it was actually on Carl's last day here on the show, July 1st.
Yep.
And we talked a little bit about your background, but if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about Paul Westfall.
Okay. Well, you probably guessed I'm not a native North Carolinian. I grew up in the state of Arkansas, which is, I guess, Raleigh and Little Rock are about on the same meridian. So weather-wise, it's about the same.
Right.
The family still has a farm in southwest Arkansas. We grow pine trees now, so that was something Mom and Dad planted after all us kids left, and they decided they wanted to travel and visit us every now and then. So I do have a bachelor's and master's degree in animal science from the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, northwest corner of the state. If you're a fan of football, they're in the SEC, and they are known as the Razorbacks.
Right.
So I did work for the Arkansas Cooperative Extension Service for a while, after I got my bachelor's, and then went back to school, and then went back to Extension Service after I got my master's degree. So, long story short, we had a governor that froze wages for a while, and I needed a little more income. So we looked around, and only Extension Service that was hiring at that time, because I like what I do. I like the Extension Service. I like the work the Extension Service does. But ended up going to New York State. I worked for Cornell Cooperative Extension Service for 21 years. Didn't intend to stay that long, but the way it ended up. So I was in the western part of the state, in Allegheny County, which is kind of along the Pennsylvania border, south of Rochester and Buffalo. And then the last 10 years, I became a county director while I was there. I was an extension agent for agriculture.
Right.
And then became a county director while I was there. Of course, they call it different things up there, but we'll keep the term simple.
Simple. Okay.
And then job opening came up in Niagara County, which is kind of the northwesternmost county in the state, and of course has Niagara Falls in it. A lot more people, but very different agriculture than down in the Genesee River Valley. That was all dairy farms down there, and crops to support dairy farms. And then Niagara County, because of its proximity to Lake Ontario, can grow just about any fruit or vegetable that we're familiar with.
Right.
I was surprised to learn one of our fruit growers was growing peaches right up there next to Lake Ontario.
Really? Peaches.
If you know anything about peaches, they're a long season and they hate cold weather. But because Lake Ontario was so large, a body of water, it influences the temperature around the lake.
Right.
So that the growing season is extended by about 2 weeks on either end of the normal growing season up there. So that was within 5 miles of the lake. You could do a lot of different things. They grew vegetables, they grew grapes. Welch's grape juice is all along Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, the National Grape Cooperative. So we had very diverse agriculture up in Niagara County. So you might think of it as more of an urban county, but there's a whole lot of agriculture up there also, because it is, a county that had 220,000 people in it, and lots and lots and lots and lots of tourists coming through all the time to visit the falls on both sides of the border.
And a lot of times when you've got tourists and agriculture in the mix, that is a winning combination.
It certainly is, because when I left to come to North Carolina, come back home, so to speak, we had probably the fastest growing wine trail in the state of New York at that time. It was a new one, and it was growing very fast. And I think just all those folks that come and visit, they're looking for different things to do around, and that was one of the things that popped up. And since they grew grapes anyway, they grew some vinifers and started making some wine as a value-added agricultural product. So that was pretty interesting learning thing there for me in developing that particular agritourism
I'm sure it
thing.
was.
So there's a lot of things we can do. We might be able to do that with certain vegetable farms. Develop I know we got the quilt trail we're developing here in Person County.
And that is really neat, and that's something I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
But now, you've been with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, what, about 8 years?
8 years now, yep. We moved here into north central North Carolina 8 years ago. Our kids grew up and moved away, and we decided if two factors influenced us to move away from where we were. One was, there's a whole bunch more factors than that, but one was our kids grew up and moved south, and if we wanted to see them, we had to come along too.
I understand.
The other thing is it's cold up there in the wintertime, and it actually gets depressing to be up there. To me, this is me. I know there's folks out there that moved down here and said, that's not right, it's great up there. That's wonderful. I don't particularly like my high temperature for the day to be 1 digit for any time, for any long period of time.
I can understand that.
So, but we had it's good times up there. We enjoyed our time. But when we moved to North Carolina, and I've said this to many people, it felt like coming home. Because the people are friendly, the topography is similar to where I grew up. Got a lot of cows, we got a lot of farms. We didn't grow tobacco in there, but we grew rice, which we don't grow here. So there's some differences. But as I said, it felt like coming home because people have been open, been friendly, and I hope that in my capacity and working with the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service, we've been able to provide some help and education to the folks here in Granville and Person counties.
Well, you make your home in Oxford.
Yes, sir.
And I love Granville County. I know a lot of people down that way and have a lot of good friends. And I think that we're lucky to have Granville County as one of our neighbors here in Person County. Paul, one thing I do want to ask you about with the transition from Arkansas to New York, North Carolina, and all this stuff. I guess in a sense you still do your job the same way, but you just maybe have to learn how to deal with the people a little bit differently, maybe.
Well, I'll say that people are people. Yes, there's some differences as far as their backgrounds, how they were raised, different things like that. But we were just talking about this among ourselves in the office earlier this morning. You do have to be able to deal with people, but you have to meet people where they're at,
right?
And meet them halfway, so to speak, and just. If you want people to work with you, you got to be able to work with them. I just put it, and yeah, personalities are different wherever you go. You're going to meet people that have I got to do this quick, got to get that done. You're going to have to meet people that are more laid back and want to take a little more time to think about things before they do it, and that's true no matter where you go. I said. Somebody told me a long time ago, and I believe it's still true today, that when you go somewhere, you're going to find what you look for. And if you look for good people, you're going to find them.
That's right.
And I believe that wholeheartedly, and I've found that to be true. You're going to find what you look for. If you go somewhere looking to find trouble, you'll find it.
That's right.
If you look somewhere to find a good church community, you'll find it. But values of people, I find it amazing that. You can find people that have similar values to what you have.
Well,
and that's true. Even we have friends in Florida that we weren't sure we'd see eye to eye on a lot of things, but we found that we have a lot of common ground.
Well, Paul, I think you make a lot of sense in what you just said. Unfortunately, the society that we live in today. And it's been this way for a long time. The bad travels a lot farther and a lot faster than the good. And with all the news reports and things, you think that it's no good people in the world. But it's far beyond more good, genuine people than bad people. But as I say, it's just unfortunate that, you know, the bad ones get more recognition sometimes.
Unfortunately, in a lot of markets, you know, bad news sells headlines.
That's right.
And
That's
you know,
exactly
that's
right.
just I don't know how to solve that issue, to try to get more good stories out there, but people just don't tend to listen to those. They pay more attention to bad headlines, and those are the things that get trumpeted around.
Yeah. Let's get a word on for Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. It's made right here in Roxborough and Person County by the Wooden family. It is a wonderful product. If you love pimento cheese, you need to get you some Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. We'll take a break, hit a word on for Our Pride Foods, and we'll come back and spend more time with Mr. Paul Westfall of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service. Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip, is made in Roxborough. Whether you're having a family gathering or would just like a snack for yourself, be sure to keep plenty of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip on hand. Goodness grows in North Carolina. Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese, is available at T.G. Brooks Company, Hurdle Mills Market and Butcher Shop, North Main IGA, Twins Meat Market, Just Save, and Food Line stores. Also, if you're in Uptown Roxborough and get the hankering for some Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese, you can enjoy it at Cole's Pharmacy and Triss's Espresso. That's Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip. Try the jalapeno added for extra flavor. Goodness grows in North Carolina, and Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip, is located in Roxborough. Here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program. Rob Hall here with you, along with Paul Westfall, who is the director of the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Service for both Granville and Person counties. Paul, I know we got some other topics we want to talk about, but continuing on about information about you being raised on the family farm, I guess that's why you decided to go into the, you know, more or less field that you're in today.
That had a lot to do with it. Of course, I was a 4-H member when I was growing up, and you know, had 4-H projects, had gardening projects, had beef projects, you know, and went on and carried that on into Future Farmers of America. I was active in both organizations when I was in school, and enjoyed that very much.
And both of those organizations are good for young people. They teach you a lot of values in life.
They teach values. They teach a lot of practical stuff that you can apply and use all your life. I mean, in FFA or vocational agriculture, you know, you learn a lot of skills that you don't get to do anywhere else. I mean, some people learn their future vocation when they go into that. For instance, how many places do you get to go and try your hand at welding, you know, at that age?
Yes.
And how many people can trace back to, well, that welding class to make their career? I know a young man that works for a utility company that started there and then went in the Navy and got some more specialized training in welding, and you know, he works for a utility company as a welder now and makes a pretty good living, I'd say.
Well, you know, both the 4-H and FFA, they are there, and they are also teaching the young people what it is to be responsible and have responsibilities. And I think that is one of the biggest things that any any young person can learn is being responsible.
It is, and that when say you or I are looking to hire somebody, we want to make sure that person is responsible. We want to make sure they know what they're doing.
That's
We want to
correct.
make sure they have some good character qualities too. And 4-H and FFA both teach that, because we do teach responsibility, because you have a project you have to work on, then you have to turn in some records on it to say how well you did on doing that. Another thing that both organizations do is they teach self-confidence, you know, because to get in front of a microphone in front of a whole bunch of people, I don't know about you, but that's pretty nerve-wracking, you know, for most people that I know of. But yeah, our 4-H members get to practice doing that through their 4-H careers, and FFA members get to do that at their various competitions they go to. So they teach a lot of skills that may not get in a lot of other settings, you know, because it's tough to do some of those things.
And it also helps them build confidence in
Self-confidence,
themselves.
yes, sir.
And you know, as well as I do, if you're, you know, have a lot of self-confidence, you can drive on with it, and it can help you. You know, I think we all need to be humble, you know, and kind, but we all have to feel, you know, I can do this, no problem, you know, and we're very fortunate to have,
and I think,
you know, those, you know, programs like
Right.
4-H and FFA.
Well, having a degree of self-confidence also helps you to take that step outside your comfort level and stretch your boundaries a little bit.
Good point. Good point. But so when you started, you know, going to college, and you majored, you know, I guess more or less, in what would it be, livestock management?
Animal science, yeah.
Animal science.
It's what the curriculum was called, but we talked about nutrition, we talked about the management, we talked about the business side of the farm. What are you going to feed an animal? You know, what all it takes, the reproductive cycle, everything that goes along with knowing about an animal. We talked about it. You know, the circulatory system, the nervous system.
So you're not a vet, but you went
No,
through
sir.
a lot of the same training that the veterinarians for large animals go through.
I went through side by side with a lot of pre-vet students.
Wow.
So, and then in grad school, the vet students went on and applied to veterinary school and got very intensive training there. If you talk to the folks that go to the NC State Vet College, they're outstanding students,
Wow.
outstanding people. But also had to take some classes in grad school that had to do some operations on rats now and then. So, and they had to survive. So.
Oh, really?
They had to survive. Your grade depended on it, so that was kind of interesting.
Wow.
I won't go into the gruesome details.
Well, that's interesting, you know, when you talk about your background and things that you know, you have had to do to get to the point where you're at. And I think it's really neat that not only you, but all the other agents that's involved in the Cooperative Extension Service, they don't mind sharing the knowledge that they worked hard and went to school for years to learn. You know, they are sharing it in a sense at no charge, although they're being paid by, you know, the state and counties, but they are lending their advice to help people out to better themselves and their operations. Let's get a word on for Sandling Golf Cars. We appreciate their business. They're actually located in Oxford on Lewis Street. If you're looking for a golf car, a utility trailer, whether it's a stock trailer, an enclosed trailer, or an equipment trailer, or maybe you're looking for a Wilmington grill, see them at Sandling Golf Cars. We'll take a trip and we'll be back spending more time with Paul Westfall, Director of the Cooperative Extension Service for Granville and Person counties. Sandling Golf Cars is located 613 Lewis Street in Oxford. They are open for business weekdays 8 until 5:30, Saturdays 9 until 1. Are you in need of a golf car? See Al, Hillary, and Will. They have club car and easy-go models. If you're wanting a gasoline or an electric golf car, maybe you're just wanting one that's basic, or you would like one that's fully customized, they've got them in stock at Sandling Golf Cars, 613 Lewis Street in Oxford, where they're open for business weekdays 8 until 5:30, Saturdays 9 until 1. Call 919-693-4626, toll free 1-800-221-9267. Are you in need of a utility trailer? You'll find tow dollies, enclosed trailers up to 24 foot, equipment trailers that can handle 30,000 pounds, stock trailers and dump trailers. See them at Sandling Golf Cars. If you need a larger enclosed trailer, no problem. 919-693-4626, toll free 1-800-221-9267. Financing is available. Also, if you're in need of Trojan batteries or repair service on your golf car, see Bradley and Dennis at Sandling Golf Cars, 613 Lewis Street in Oxford. They also have Wilmington Grills at Sandling Golf Cars, 613 Lewis Street in Oxford. Call 919-693-4626 or toll free 1-800-221-9267. Stop in and see them this week at Sandling Golf Cars. They carry Club Car and Easy Go golf cars. That's Sandling Golf Cars in Oxford. Here we are back on the Gardener's Corner program. Rob Hall here, along with Mr. Paul Westfall of the Cooperative Extension Service. And while we were on break, we just had a phone call, and Kilby spoke with the lady. And a little bit earlier on in the show, Paul had made mention that it was one dairy farmer here in Person County, and it is Mick Clayton. Well, I was not aware of it, but the lady just called, and I think Paul was kind of aware that Mick was going to be having bypass surgery. Mm-hmm. And we are glad to say that he had bypass surgery this morning, and we understand that he's doing good. So we want to wish Mick a speedy recovery.
Wish Mick a speedy recovery. Wish all the best to his family as they deal with his surgery and everything. And I know that the family appreciates everyone's thoughts and prayers.
And we appreciate, I don't know who the lady was called in, but appreciate you sharing that information with us. Paul, we got just a few minutes left, but I want to test you on your expertise, okay, being in livestock, more or less your area of more or less knowing what you're talking about and expertise. The question I want to ask you is, here it is, dead hot summertime, the middle of July. What do livestock owners and producers need to be doing at this time of the year?
Well, when I came in, I was thinking about that. It is a hot time of the year. Most of the time, this time of year, most of our fescue grass is pretty much quit growing. It goes dormant when it gets above 85 degrees. So in the midsummer, I was going to call this the virtues of crabgrass. I was going to make all the landscapers have a heart attack, I guess, when I said that. But crabgrass to a livestock farmer is a lifesaver in the summertime. So making sure that you've got a good stand of some summertime forages like crabgrass or Bermuda grass, and crop farmers will curse me for that one, I'm sure, but because they hate Bermuda grass, it's hard to get rid of. But it makes a wonderful forage for cows and sheep and goats and other livestock to be grazing on during the summer, because it likes hot weather. It's a warm season perennial grass. Crabgrass is a warm season annual grass. And I know there are some varieties like Red River crabgrass that have been developed specifically for, summer grazing programs. So you can still have your fescue to grow in the spring and the fall, and you can have the crabgrass and Bermuda grass to fill in those summer months like July and August, or what they call the dog days. We're right in them right now. So it's hot, as you all know. It's very humid, but these grasses will grow up, on through this kind of weather and provide forages. I've had some beef farmers tell me if they didn't have crabgrass, they probably wouldn't be farming.
Wow.
So that's how important these summer grasses are to get cows and, you know, our livestock through this summertime grazing period. Otherwise, the other option would be to feed hay. And who likes to feed hay in the summertime?
That's
I
right.
sure don't. I never did like hauling it in the midsummer time. Because we ended up, when I was a teenager, that was one of the ways I made some money during the summer, was hauling hay. And we did it at night because it was so hot during the daytime. So,
Yeah.
but nobody likes to feed hay any more than they have to. So, and cows can harvest grass a lot more efficiently than we can with all our machinery. And they're just built to do it. They do a great job. And if we can provide them some of these things like crabgrass in the summertime, we're all the better for it.
Well, Paul, I wish we had another hour to talk, because I've got a lot of other questions that I would like to ask you about livestock and
Certainly, we'll get to
things
those.
like that. But we'll just have to put it on hold for now. Now, next week on the program, we're actually going to have one of the 4-H agents with us, correct?
Yes, Beth Davis is going to be here next week to talk about the 4-H program here in Person County, and she's got a lot of things going on this summer. We call this our summer fun program time
Right.
of year. Got all sorts of day camps going on. I think they've already been to the Betsy Jeff Penn 4-H camp with a group of kids for this year. But she can talk about some of the upcoming things, and maybe talk about the 4-H program in general and some of the things that go on throughout the year.
Looking forward to it. Paul, thank you for coming out today.
Thank you,
Hope
Rob.
you enjoyed
Appreciate
your
it.
time with us. Thanks goes out to our sponsors, Our Pride Foods, makers of Our Pride Premium Pimento Cheese Spread and Dip, T.G. Brooks Company, and Sandling Golf Cars. Rob Hall saying thanks for tuning in. I want to wish you and yours a happy and safe weekend, and we look forward to seeing you next week for another edition of the Gardener's Corner program.